Hi everybody! Welcome to Beyond the Lines. My name is Sarah, I'm the artist behind Pinselgeschichten and I do love colors. Hence, I want to talk to you about colors, why I use certain colors, why I choose certain tones, what that means when it comes to emotions, to maybe a space or a specific date in time that you want to convey, that you want to maybe have a certain feel that you're drawing, you're painting, maybe your coloring book page should transport to the viewer. I'm using coloring books for this task, and today I'm working again even more on this page here. It's the first page in the Outlander coloring book. And today I'm finishing off with the details on Mrs. Baird's house, so the ivory and these flower pots here. And I cover the two buildings next to Mrs. Baird's bed and breakfast. And I talk to you about why I choose different grays here than I used in this house, why that is, what that color change does, stuff like that. So let's see what I do. So here we go, next part of the drawing. I think I'm going to have these two houses here colored this time around because I'm not gonna need to place my hand on this section a lot when I color the lower part later. And I can also just use the second page here to, well, help along with the positioning of the hand in case I want to, what's the word? Place my hand there. Also, I need to color the ivory here because that would actually be in the way. So I'm going to look for the green first, and I need a very dark green that is more to the warmer side or neutral, like not cold, not warm, but in between. So these were the colder colors, these are the warmer colors, I think. Well, ivory is rather a deep green. Oh, I like this one. And some more shading. Maybe that one here. Yeah, that's it. Already decided. But I need to sharpen my pencils a bit because these are very, very tiny dots here, and I will very likely not work with paint thinner on them because I want the texture to stand out. So let's give it a coat of color. The lighter color first, and then here and there go in with the dark colors. Got the ivory done. Now I can move on to the houses here. They stand back in comparison to this house. So this has the warm grays because it's the focal point. It pops out. I want when you look at the page, be drawn right to this house. That's why it also has the red as well as the car. This is like the car is gonna have the mahogany burgundy red. So I want these to stand back. So I'm only going to use cold colors because cold colors push things back while warm colors tend to bring things into the foreground. So now, but I do want to set these two apart. So I think to do that, the best way is to have this one here be colored lighter than this one. because this, though, well, the light comes from here, so I have to have a lighter section up here on the chimney, but the rest should be fairly dark, and this house here be a bit lighter and have some what's it called, some a brownstone underneath, something like that. So I'm gonna start with this house here, and I'm going to choose my colors, and I'm looking for the cold grays. I do have them out on my desk already because I have been working with those earlier, but I didn't clean up yesterday and didn't sort all of my pencils. I just left them as they were, and now I have to separate the cold grays from the warm grays, which I'm quickly going to do. This should be a cold one. Yes, cold, yes, cold, yes, cold, yes. I can actually distinguish the warms from the grays, the warms from the colds by just looking at the casing. I'm just looking at the words to make sure, because sometimes, well, I'm trusting the colors that the casings have, but I just want to make sure not to have like a mishap be done at my drawing. That would be, well, counterproductive, so I don't want to have any warm grays in there by accident. So these are my colds, and I'm going to start, I want the darks, I need the black too. I want this one to be fairly dark, but the chimney has to be a bit lighter, probably, just because it's hit by light. So for the roof, I want Payne's Gray and Black. And for the rest of the building, I need to have these three. So these three colors, which are the lighter ones, are going into this house here in front of the other one. So I'm going to set it aside not to use it by accident, and I will use the warm grays 4, 5, and that should be 6. Yes, 6 for this house here. And I'm just gonna, again, like with all of the rest, from light to dark, give it a light coat first, and then go darker as I need it. So the darker house is done, and now I'm going in with the 3 lighter grays that I had saved, and I am going to color this one. I also have to use a bit of red and brown for the bricks here, and then I want a color for this section here that sits pretty much in this area here. So I use the cream color and I think a warm gray for the curtains here, but I don't want to have the same color. I want to have something similar. I also don't want to have the black window frames. I want to have maybe the dark brown. So I guess, yeah, I think the, what's it called? It's cream. It's actually like a straw yellow. That's what it's called in German if you would translate it into English right away. I think I'm going to use that because it works nice with the brown that I'm going to use for the frame as well as in that brick section. And then I'm going for the 3 lighter grays to color in the house. And I might need to come in with a few of the darker colors that I used in the house in the back to, well, have a bit more of a contrast, because it sits in front of that house, so it has to have a bit more contrast, but not as much as this one. And I'm gonna zoom in a bit so that you can see a few more of the details that I'm doing. I think that should work. So let's get started. First of all, you gotta sneeze though. I'm sorry. Whew. So the last thing that I'm going to do in this video is color these pots here, these flower or plant pots, and the door entry of Mrs. Baird's, and all of the rest will be done in the next video or the next 2, depending on how fast I'm gonna be. So I'm going to slide the book in a way that you can see and zoom in even a bit more, because these are like really tiny details. All right, so for the plants I'm going to use the same colors that I used for the ivory, so these 2 greens. With this one here I will have a pop of red with it, but a lighter one that I used before, so I guess I'm going with this one. It's a deep scarlet red for these tiny blobs in there. And for the flower pot I'm gonna take the brown that I used in the windows. And do I have a lighter brown used already? Only the reddish ones. Okay, so I need one more. Let's take, oh, come on, I'm here. Let's take the terracotta, which I'm gonna tone down quite a bit with the brown, but with the dark brown, but I'm going to use those for the plant pots and the plants inside. And I will use, what am I gonna use? I'm going to use, well, I'm not gonna color the doorstep yet. I'm gonna wait for it and see how it looks with the sidewalk in the end, and then I'm gonna decide what color to give it, because I don't know if it's like a carpet kind of a thing that we do know from Modern Life, or if it's actually just a stone. I don't know. So I'm giving the plants here, the mini trees, a light coat first. Again, the light comes from here, so I need to color the left hand side darker to have shadow going on. I'm kind of feathering it out into the right, just to not have it too kind of like a vertical line drawn, but more of a natural shade of color and shape of shadow going over it again with a light green. Now for the pots, goes the same way, giving it a coat of terracotta first. I like that color, it's nice. It works well with the colors that I used in the sign and the door of Mrs. Baird's. That mahogany, Bordeaux, very deep, dark red, brown kind of a color. Now I'm going in with the darkest, with the dark brown. I need to sharpen it though. And I'm going the same way as I did with the plants. I'm coming in with a darker color on the right and feathering it out a bit. Into the terracotta. Underneath that rim here, I'm going way more to the right because that rim actually casts a shadow. Now going over it with terracotta again. It's fairly simple once you understand the principle of light and shadow and getting a hang of how to combine colors in a nice way. Time to go in with a paint thinner. Where's my tiny brush? There it is. I need my plate underneath. By pulling the darker color into the lighter color, you get a bit more pigment, darker pigment on the rest of the plant as well. That works fairly well when you have a bit more of a contrast between the colors that you use rather than having like the next number in your colored pencil drawing case. Alrighty, these are the parts. Now I will do the same thing for that flower or plant pots down here, but I'm not gonna go in with a paint thinner at the green and red section. Or am I gonna give it purple because it's the forget-me-nots? Well, it's not. The forget-me-nots are at Craignaddon. I don't recall them also being at the bed and breakfast at Mrs. Baird's house. Alright. So this section here, this part of the drawing is way too tiny to go in with paint thinner. There's no sense and no reason to do that. It's far too tiny to move pigment around in a fashion that the paint thinner could help with. So I'm just actually coloring that part here, all of those tiny pieces, and making sure that I blend the colors as well as I can, especially on the greens. The reds just get one layer, and I'm done with that. The eye will fill in the rest once it looks at the drawing. Thus, I also didn't need to have an accurate shading at the ivory, for example. Just had to, well, have a consistent way of coloring the lights and the darks, and your brain will do the rest and make it look accurate. Alright, coat of terracotta, and now going in with a dark brown. This is a shadow side here. It's way darker, and I'm also gonna extend the darker color on the lower side all the way. I need a bit of paint thinner though, or I can work with a bit of paint thinner on the pot, on the terracotta pot, but I'm gonna stay away from the flowers there. I need my plate. Just gonna go over this pot here, moving the pigment around slightly. There you go. So this is, I think, the perfect part of the drawing to end the video. I'm gonna be back next week with the rest of the drawing, or at least the car. I'm gonna start with the car. I should zoom out, you can't see anything. Again, I'm gonna come back and color at least the car next week. It could be that I finish the drawing. I don't know yet. It depends on how fast I can be, but there's lots of details in the car that might take me just long enough to make it one video. Excuse me. But like the main color scheme is on the drawing already. It's like I said in the beginning, lots of grays, warm grays, but it looks real because there's tiny little dabs of greens. These are the same greens, and they're very similar to the ones I used in the bushes, at least part of it. Less the hill, but there's color repetition here and a tiny bit here, so this all ties together, and that makes it look warm and interesting and make things pop, though the major part of the drawing is warm and cold grays. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below, and if you happen to color along this drawing with me, please do me a favor and send me a photo of what your drawing or your page looked like in the end, or how far you are with your coloring and your colors that you chose. I'm very interested in these kinds of things. I'm super curious about how other people's minds work and how they choose color and what they prefer and stuff. It's very interesting to me, so you would really do me a huge favor. And if you feel like giving this video a thumbs up, or share it with your friends, or subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, this would really help a lot, and I would very much appreciate it. So go ahead, do all the good things, and have a lovely day. Go create something or color something, and then just be enjoying all the things that you do. That's the best thing I could wish for. So take good care, everybody. I'm gonna see you next week when we finish up this piece.